Something massive just dropped. Messages leaked by the wife of political aide Mason Cole might crack this entire situation wide open. And now the wife of public figure Evan Cross is reportedly doing everything she can to keep those messages buried. The leaked clips reveal something off. Very off. And it looks like Mason's own wife has finally reached her breaking point. She's ready to put everything on the table. But here's where it gets even stranger. Evan's wife allegedly wants it all shut down before it spreads any further. And what she's supposedly doing behind the scenes to stop it, that's the part people won't stop talking about. You clicked this video for answers, so here's exactly what you're about to get, the footage that sparked all the questions. The timeline inconsistencies no one can explain. The odd, last-minute trip that happened right before Evan Cross was attacked, and why people online are now whispering about the possibility of an inside setup. I'm not here to tell you what to believe. I am just showing you what's circulating, and if even half of these leaks hold any truth, they paint a picture that suggests certain people might have known much more than they claimed. The deeper I dug, the harder it became to ignore the red flags. The stories don't align. The timing feels off. And the silence from key players? It's louder than any statement they could release. So stick with me, because what Mason Cole's wife revealed may change the entire narrative. Before we get into the details, here's what you need to know about Mason. He's the chief aide to Evan Cross. He was only 23 when the attack happened. And most importantly, he was standing right beside Evan when it all went down. Now, I want to recap the incident itself. Most people already know what happened, but I will show you Mason's reaction. The moment the shot was fired, viral footage captured something people can't stop debating. Instead of rushing to help, instead of taking cover like everyone else, Mason simply walked away, phone to his ear, completely calm.
I'm going to zoom in on that here in a second, and then you can see him walking out on his phone behind the tent. Charlie is getting loaded into the van, and Micky is seen over here, back turned on the phone. This is weird, right? But even weirder is this. Zooming in closer, Micky's reaction right when Charlie was shot. Look, he pulls his phone out to his ear without even pressing any buttons. Watch closely. Arms folded, phone right to his...
Look at this. Everyone around Mason is in full-blown panic. People are shouting. People are scrambling for cover. And Mason? He slowly turns, calmly walks away, phone pressed to his ear, almost like he already knew what was coming. Now, I'm not saying he did. I'm saying that's exactly how it looks, and that's why the internet started digging hard. But here's where things get even stranger. Right after the incident, suddenly everyone inside the organization began labeling Mason a hero. Every time his name came up, it wasn't just Mason Cole. It was the incredible Mason Cole, the brilliant Mason Cole, the heroic Mason Cole. Every single time, even major commentators noticed. One of them asked the question everyone else was too scared to say out loud. Why does Mason get a title before his name, but nobody else does? And that question is exactly why this story is exploding. Because if you think that moment was strange, wait until you see what comes next. I mean it, the next part will change the way you look at this entire situation.
He, in less than a second, does something that I find to be quite strange. He puts his phone to his ear and he begins a conversation. So we're going to watch that clip in its entirety. Mark is going to bring it in. That it is exactly 834 milliseconds from the time that you hear the shot. That is how long it takes for Micky McCoy to put the phone to his ear. Now, why is that precise timing so important? Because there's no dialing. Micky didn't have time to dial, okay? You can't dial and put your phone to an ear in 0.834 seconds. Yeah, when the clip was brought to my attention, I obviously have a file, a big folder of files of every angle, and I decided to track Micky from every angle available to see, like, maybe we just missed it, and he did at some point put that phone down, dial a number, speed dial, hold down one, I don't know.
Think about how strange that would feel in real life. Imagine if every time someone mentioned a friend, they said, the extraordinary John, or the awe-inspiring Sarah. You'd instantly think something was off, right? So why is everyone doing that with Mason? Now here's where things get even more complicated, because Evan Cross's wife, Elise, may have unintentionally revealed a contradiction. During her interview, she was asked how she first learned Evan had been attacked. Her answer was simple. She said she was at her mother's doctor's appointment, her phone was on silent, she set it down, and when she picked it back up, Mason Cole was calling her. She claimed he contacted her seconds after the incident. Seconds. That lines up exactly with the viral clip we talked about earlier, the footage showing Mason lifting his phone immediately after the shot and walking away while speaking to someone. So according to Elise's account, Mason was definitely on a call right after the incident. But here's the issue: the organization released a completely different story. The show's executive producer posted a video defending Mason, insisting he was never on a call. According to him, Mason only brought his hands to his ears because the gunshot was unbearably loud. He said Mason was in shock, that the phone just happened to be in his hand, and that he wasn't actually talking to anyone. And that creates a major contradiction. Either Elise is telling the truth, meaning Mason really did call her immediately, and the footage is exactly what it appears to be, or the organization is telling the truth, meaning Mason wasn't on a call at all, which would imply Elise gave incorrect information during a national interview. Both versions can't be true at the same time. There's also an incredibly simple way to clear the whole thing up. Mason could release his call history. That's all it would take. Show the timestamps. Show who he contacted and when. It would answer every question within minutes. But so far? Nothing. Not a word. And that silence raises its own questions. Then came something else that caught a lot of people off guard. A commentator pointed out that just a few weeks before Evan's death, something unusual happened. Mason and his wife, Lila, took their very first joint family trip with Evan and Elise. Their first one ever, and it happened right before everything went downhill.
Micky McCoy and his wife Eliza for the very first time. Now, this is according to Eliza McCoy. She shared that it was the first time ever that they went on vacation. Her and Micky went on vacation with Erika and Charlie. Here's that post on Instagram. That second paragraph begins, "We spent a few weeks together this summer, our first family trip together." Okay, getting real close there. And while they were on this very first time together for a couple of weeks vacation, something moved the McCoys to capture intimate and sweet moments of the Kirk family from behind the scenes. Now, you know which footage I'm talking about. It's the footage that has since gone viral of Charlie walking with his children and Erika. Erika grabs his hand. It's actually a very sweet moment, and it moved a lot of us. People were, I was crying when I first saw this footage a couple of days after Charlie died.
According to Lila Cole's own Instagram post, she wrote that they had spent a few weeks together that summer, their very first family trip as a group, and that the two families had grown extremely close. And during that vacation, something unusual happened. The Coles began recording the Cross family. Not just simple snapshots. They were capturing intimate, behind-the-scenes moments. You probably remember the clip everyone saw. It went viral after Evan's death. It shows Evan walking with his kids while his wife, Elise, reaches over and takes his hand. A quiet, emotional moment that made a lot of people cry. And the people who filmed it? The Coles. A commentator asked a question I still can't shake. What motivated them to film that? Think about it. On a family trip, who's normally behind the camera? A family member, meaning someone is always missing from the photo. That's just how it works. But on this vacation, the Coles were filming the entire Cross family from the background, like they knew they needed to preserve every moment. Was that a coincidence? Were they just incredibly thoughtful friends? Or was something else happening that we don't fully understand? And here's something even stranger. Only 4 days before Evan died, Mason felt compelled to record him again during their trip to Korea. That was the last time Evan was ever captured on video like that.
Example number one, Charlie's very last overseas trip to Korea. This was 4 days before he died. For whatever reason, Micky McCoy felt suddenly inspired to try his luck, miking up Charlie and capturing him on the road. And he says this is the first time he ever did it. Take a listen to Micky McCoy.
4 days before the incident, and Mason just happened to film him. That timing feels odd to me. Now, we need to talk about the leaks themselves, because this is where the entire story blows open. Late one night, an account that people later linked to Mason's wife posted something online. Screenshots. Audio notes. Private conversations. No explanation. No context. Just 3 chilling words. They all knew. Within minutes, those screenshots spread everywhere. And what people found inside unsettled them. The messages allegedly showed a private group chat. The names in it were Mason Cole, several staff members from the organization, and someone listed only as EK. Most people believe that stood for Elise Cross. The texts weren't long, but they didn't have to be. This is what they supposedly said: everything is set. Stay calm if it happens. We've gone over this. Make sure cameras keep rolling. And then the line that took over the internet. Elise already knows. 4 words, but they changed absolutely everything. Because if those screenshots were real, if Elise truly knew something before it happened, then what everyone saw that day wasn't chaos. It was preparation. But the leaks didn't end there. A voice recording appeared next, a woman's voice trembling as she said, "I can't stay quiet anymore." This wasn't an accident. Many believe it was Mason's wife. Others think it was a close friend speaking on her behalf. But whoever it was, the emotion was unmistakable, fear mixed with guilt. And the wildest part? The timestamps on the leaked messages lined up almost perfectly with the clip of Mason picking up his phone right before the shooting. What everyone had brushed off as a coincidence suddenly looked intentional. Reddit threads, TikTok breakdowns, Twitter spaces. Everyone was asking the same thing. What did Elise Cross and the organization really know before the attack? And what happened after the leaks? That's where things turned dark. Mason's wife's social media, deleted. Her friends, locked their accounts. People claiming to know her said she was told not to speak. Others said she was terrified. And then, complete silence. Meanwhile, the organization did the exact opposite. They flooded the internet with content praising Mason Cole. Interviews, podcasts, press releases, all glorifying him. It looked less like grief, and more like damage control. A coordinated attempt to bury the scandal under praise.
I want you to feel hurt by all these horrible things. We know that you have a responsibility. You're a young man. And I just want you to take a deep breath, like I said, and you know what? Let them spin their conspiracy theories. You're a good kid. You had instructions to call Erika. Charlie had a team that jumped right in there. I know that team. And we just got to move on. We got to push to moving on, and let's get to these midterms.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Bernadette. It's crazy. It's just, I remember taking, the last picture I took of Charlie was at 12:23. I did, in fact, call Erika momentarily afterwards. But thank you, Bernadette. That's very encouraging to hear from you.
You be encouraged, and you keep going, because we need you. And we need that team to take a deep breath and get your pants on and get...
In one clip, someone is seen comforting Mason, telling him not to think about the conspiracy theories, telling him to breathe, calling him a good kid, and reminding him that Evan had a team who took care of everything. But here's the thing about silence. When innocent people get accused of something, they usually fight back. They show proof. They file lawsuits. They demand corrections. What did the organization do? Nothing. No lawsuit against the rumors. No cease and desist letters. Just carefully maintained silence. And that pattern, deny, distract, disappear. It's exactly what people expect when something is being covered up. I'm not saying that's what this is. I'm saying it certainly doesn't look good. And Elise, based on what's circulating online, is allegedly doing everything she can to keep Mason's wife from saying anything else. The one woman who broke the script? They want her silent. Let's go back to something that commentator pointed out, because the more I think about it, the stranger it gets. Every time someone from the organization mentions Mason Cole, they attach an adjective. The incredible Mason Cole. The brilliant Mason Cole. The heroic Mason Cole. Every single time.
Micky McCoy, the chief of staff, Turning Point USA, Micky McCoy, for whatever reason, he always requires an adjective. Whenever they discuss Micky McCoy, there's an adjective before they say his name. A bunch of people in a Turning Point USA orbit described Micky McCoy in this very unique manner. I want you to take a listen to that.
Let me tell you who the heroes were in this whole thing. We're going to start with 23-year-old Micky McCoy. And that's when the great Micky McCoy showed up.
And my husband's chief of staff, the amazing Micky McCoy.
My friend Micky McCoy, the brilliant 24-year-old who at the time when Charlie was shot was 23 and was a hero that day.
I used to be known as Charlie Kirk's pastor. Now I'm known as Micky McCoy's dad.
He clicked into gear eventually.
He did.
It was amazing.
Micky was a heroic thing.
And this is actually, to your point, you saw Micky do heroic things that day. I saw Micky do heroic things. I was not on site, but I immediately flew to Utah. We got a plane. I mean, it's not something that I'm used to, but it was like my wife went with me. We went straight over. I knew I needed to be with Erika and the team immediately just because, I just knew. But that moment when I got the news, I was so shell-shocked. I was not even there, but I was immediately traumatized. My brain fries like an egg. I can't see straight. I can't think straight. All I knew is that, what's happening? My wife came in. She, hugged me. We started crying.
There's also a clip where someone says, "She hugged me," then pauses for a moment before adding, "and we started crying." That pause felt scripted, like he had to think about the next line, as if rehearsing what to say. The commentator summed it up perfectly. She said she would never call someone heroic for calmly walking away from his friend after he was shot. That's not heroic behavior. And imagine if every time someone mentioned a television host like Trevor Carlson, they called him the extraordinary Trevor Carlson. You'd immediately think something strange was going on. So why does only Mason get this treatment? Why is everyone working so desperately to paint him as a hero? Unless they're trying to get ahead of something. Let's step back for a moment, because there's something Elise said in her interview that people haven't talked about enough. When she was asked if the attacker had been caught, she didn't say yes. She said, "I trust our team." She mentioned seeing the autopsy. She talked about different pieces of evidence that had been collected. And then she said something that stuck with me. "I want to see what they did to my husband." Not him. They. Who is they? That's a question she never clarified. Later, she was asked whether Evan being shot while answering a question about political violence was a coincidence. Her response, "I don't believe in coincidences." Neither do I. Commentators covering the case have even called this an inside job. They've highlighted the inconsistencies, the contradictions, the strange behavior, and they're voicing what many people privately think: this feels bigger than a lone attacker. We know Evan was shot on stage. We know Mason's reaction was unusual. We know the timelines don't align. We know his wife allegedly leaked messages hinting that people knew beforehand. And we know the people involved have gone silent. That's a lot of coincidences for someone who doesn't believe in them. So here's where things stand. Mason Cole walked away calmly after his friend was shot. He refuses to release his call logs. Everyone in the organization keeps calling him a hero. Elise is allegedly trying to silence the only person who might know the truth. And the woman who leaked the messages has vanished. What's actually happening here? I don't have every answer. But someone does. Someone who was there. Someone who saw everything. And until their silence breaks, all we can do is keep asking questions.